Welcome to Yaka Digital Network videos. Across the agricultural fields and ecological landscapes of Uganda, a quiet math dictates which species thrive and which fail. In nature, no organism lives entirely alone. By zooming in on these physical structures, we reveal a complex network of continuous interactions between species. Biologists call these long-term, close physical interactions symbiosis. These associations are highly evolved strategies. Over millions of years, species have developed these physical links to solve the most difficult challenges in nature: securing food, finding safety, and reproducing in resource-scarce environments. We can analyze these survival strategies mathematically by calculating the specific costs and benefits for the species involved. First is mutualism, a plus-plus scenario where both species gain a survival advantage. Next is commensalism, a plus-zero dynamic where one benefits and the host is unaffected. Finally, parasiticism is a plus-minus relationship where one organism benefits at the direct expense of its host. Decoding this matrix allows us to track the flow of energy through a habitat. It shows how species manipulate their environment and each other to guarantee their own survival. To see a plus-plus strategy in action, we can look at local legume farming. Beneath the soil, the roots of bean plants harbor specialized nitrogen-fixing bacteria, known as rhizobium, inside small structures called nodules. This cellular diagram illustrates the biological trade agreement at work. The bean plant channels carbohydrates synthesized during photosynthesis down to the bacteria. In return, the bacteria convert atmospheric nitrogen into a usable chemical form, feeding it directly back into the plant's root system. We see the same strategy in major ecosystems like the Badongo forest. Massive trees rely on mycorrhizal fungi to expand their root surface area, allowing the tree to absorb far more water and minerals than it could alone. Above ground, we often observe an oxpecker bird riding on the back of a rhinoceros. The bird receives a highly reliable food source by picking ticks off the thick hide. The rhinoceros gets two distinct benefits: a thorough removal of disease-carrying parasites and an early warning alarm, as the bird will fly off loudly if a predator approaches. Mutualism requires an evolutionary investment. Organisms expend biological energy to help a partner because the specific survival advantage returned to them outweighs the initial cost. In contrast, some relationships yield a survival advantage that is entirely one-sided. This is commensalism. In dense forests, epiphytes, like small ferns or orchids, anchor themselves to the upper branches of tall trees. The spatial advantage here is clear. The orchid bypasses the shaded forest floor, securing the high ground to access direct sunlight for photosynthesis. The host tree represents the zero in our plus-zero matrix. It expends no energy, loses no nutrients to the orchid, and its structural integrity remains completely unaffected. Commensalism is an exercise in precision. A species successfully exploits a physical niche created by another, navigating the environment so carefully that it avoids triggering any defensive response from the host. When an organism actively damages its host to survive, it employs the stealth strategy of parasitism. We see the economic impact of this daily in Ugandan livestock farming. Ticks act as ectoparasites. By attaching to the outside of cattle and feeding on their blood, they cause physical weakness and transmit severe infections like East Coast fever. Endoparasites operate internally. A tapeworm anchors into the intestinal wall of a human host, absorbing already digested nutrients and inducing severe malnutrition over time. Because parasites harm other animals to feed, they are frequently confused with predators. But biologically, their strategies are opposites. This comparison table isolates the mechanical differences. A predator is usually larger than its prey and kills it immediately during short-term contact. A parasite is almost always smaller than its host, relying instead on long-term, intimate contact. That long-term contact requires extreme biological specificity. A cattle tick is highly adapted to the exact skin density and blood composition of specific livestock. The core evolutionary logic of a parasite is preservation, not destruction. A highly successful parasite keeps its host alive as long as possible to continue feeding and reproducing. Killing a host too quickly is a failure because the parasite destroys its own habitat and food supply. When we pull back from individual pairings, we see that these biological associations dictate the stability of the entire ecosystem. This network map tracks a keystone mutualism. We have a specific pollinating bee, a local fruit tree, monkeys that consume the fruit, and eagles that hunt the monkeys. If habitat loss causes that specific bee species to go extinct, the primary physical link breaks. Without pollination, the tree fails to produce fruit and seeds. Deprived of their main food source, the monkey population starves. Consequently, the eagle population rapidly crashes. Biodiversity is a load-bearing structure. Every species performs a distinct mechanical job that supports another. Removing a single symbiotic partner can collapse the surrounding network. Ugandan farmers rely on this exact science to protect their yields while maintaining environmental health. By utilizing integrated pest management, or IPM, agriculturalists use natural biological associations to control pests, reducing the need for chemical sprays. Instead of spraying an entire field to kill crop-destroying aphids, farmers introduce a specific parasitic wasp. The wasp injects its eggs directly into the aphids, suppressing the pest population naturally and efficiently. Whether we are looking at the plus-plus cooperation of mutualism, the precise plus-zero positioning of commensalism, or the plus-minus extraction of parasitism, these survival strategies dictate the final productivity of our farms and the resilience of our wild landscapes. You can watch more videos for all classes here and get all content at www.yaka.cc.